I want all of you to imagine a scenario real quick. Imagine that you're in a fight with someone. Maybe you're in a competition, maybe you're sparring at the gym, maybe you're just brawling with someone on the street. It doesn't really matter. Point is, you need to beat this guy for some reason. Imagine in your head how you might go about this. So you got that in your head? Alright, okay, cool. So how would you feel if when the match starts, your opponent immediately starts running away and throwing rocks at you? That doesn't really sound fair now, though, does it? This was supposed to be an honorable fight, not a bullet hell simulator. I'm sure in the honorable arena of fighting games, there's no dirty tricks or silly tactics like that being utilized by characters. Nice! Yeah. Okay, let's talk about zoners. Zoning is a technique in which you attempt to keep your opponent from being able to advance forward towards you by stuffing their approach in different ways. And it is a coward's way to play the game, and you should feel bad for playing like this. It is technically a technique that most, if not all, characters can do. However, certain characters are much more proficient at it than others. The characters that are the best at the technique are known as zoners. Now, when it comes to fighting game archetypes that are hated, while generally different from person to person, I would say that Rushdown is the least hated, then followed by grapplers, and then by far above everyone else are zoners. If someone is going to get hate in the FGC, it's probably the zoner players. But is it for a good reason? Do zoners deserve the hate that they get? Are they really worse than grapplers? Like, really, are we sure that they're worse than grappler guys? Like, the grappler players are a vocal minority at best. Like, are you sure that we hate zoners more? Well, that's what we're here to investigate. Today, I'm going to truly figure out why you hate fighting zoners. But first, a message from our sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. You can choose from over 2,000 different vehicles like tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships to play in dynamic combined arms PvP game modes. Each one of the vehicles has an immaculate amount of detail and are modeled all the way down to their individual components with very detailed damage models. My favorite feature is the X-ray mode that lets you see exactly what happened to your enemy after you shot them. It's really cool. The game also has several different levels of immersion for all types of players. From fast-paced warfare to tactical experience, there really is a game mode for everyone. Interested? Well, use my link in the description and you'll receive a large free bonus pack including multiple premium vehicles, a premium account, several boosters, and much more. So what are you waiting for? Go play War Thunder on PC, Xbox Series X or S, PlayStation 5, and previous gen consoles today. Thank you for the sponsor, War Thunder. As said before, a zoner is a character that excels at keeping their opponents from being able to approach them. They sit their ass at the edge of the screen and just poke you down until either the time runs out or your HP drops below zero. Notice that this is the first time in these games that I've mentioned the time running out. For most characters in modern fighting games, the timer isn't really something that you think about, at least in most 2D games. With anywhere between 60 to 99 seconds on the clock, most characters have more than enough time to get their game plan rolling and kill their opponents. Zoners, however, tend to have game plans that involve slowing the pace of the game down. Let's say that this character's basic game plan is that they want to get in on their opponent, knock them down, and hit them with some sort of looping set play or mix-ups until the opponent dies. This type of game plan generally disregards the timer entirely, as their plan and their kit revolves around repeatedly hitting the opponent for big damage or disgusting unseeable attacks. So what does the zoner game plan look like? Well, the game plan starts out the same with the zoner simply wanting to get to their preferred range. However, the game plan then changes pretty drastically from get in and kill the opponent to something more like get a life lead and stop the opponent from approaching. Now, generally by keeping the opponents out, they are able to kill them because there's nothing more frustrating to a fighting game player than being forced to dash block. But notice how there isn't actually an end to this game plan. With rushdown characters, the game plan is get in, mix them, and kill them. With grapplers, it's slowly get in, get 2 good reads, and kill them because of it. Zoner characters are actually much more likely to enjoy sitting away from you and flinging their shit at you without even actually engaging with your character. Now granted, not all zoners have tools that just aim to keep the opponent away. Axel Lowe, Guilty Gear's most dedicated zoner, has a command grab type move in basically all of his iterations. New 13 has a really good knockdown pressure game and full screen mix-ups that she's able to convert into good damage. Love from Melty Blood has genuine unblockable setups which then convert into full damage. think anime games are just a little bit bullshit, honestly. But how do zoners actually keep you away? What is it in their toolkits that allow them to keep you at the end of the map? Well, there's generally two different ways that they do this. The first is with big-ass buttons. Now, this one is pretty self-explanatory. Some characters have buttons that they're able to constantly use to keep the enemy at a specific distance. They're generally fast in both startup and recovery, provide some good spacing advantage like pushing the opponent back to a safe distance, or being extremely hard to punish when they whiff. Some of these moves aren't very obvious, whereas others are. These zoners generally have a lot of good options to cover a bunch of different approaches from the opponent, with moves that effectively cover the ground and the air. However, once the opponent finally gets into their face, it's generally over, as they have no reliable reversal tools and pretty slow buttons, leading to a lot of difficulty when getting the opponents off of them. So, what does the other type look like?
Please, have mercy!
This, if you cannot tell, is a projectile-based zoner. They complete their game plan by using projectiles to keep their opponent as far away from them as possible. Now, some zoners are civilized about this. Our good friend Guile over here only ever has one projectile without meter, but it recovers quickly, allowing him to adjust his game plan according to how the opponent responds. He generally keeps you at a safe distance and uses his relatively good buttons to punish your close-range approach options. And then we have Morrigan, who... A lot of projectile zoners tend to have attacks in which they are able to simply fill the screen with bullshit that leaves you wondering where you went wrong in life. Now, granted, this is generally the exception to these projectile zoners, but the most powerful ones are still able to use their projectiles to lock you down and punish you for simple mistakes, even if it's not by turning everything into a Toho game. They also generally have stronger ways to deal with their opponents up close, with better mid-range and close-range buttons when compared to their long-limbed sibling. However, they're still not generally very good at close ranges, keyword being generally. So, why do people hate fighting zoners? Huh? What do you mean? Do I need to put the Morrigan clip back up again? Like, you expect me to try and explain this? You have eyes, don't you? Like, look at this shit. Look, I'll show it to you again. Are you ready? Wait, what the fuck do you do against that? Oh, good. I'm so glad that you backdashed at round start, and now I have to play fucking Ikaruga. Basically, every other archetype in fighting game revolves around being close to the opponent. Apart from, like, puppets, sometimes, kinda, and, like, trap characters, I guess. You know, this analogy is falling apart. So having a character that just sits away from you, spamming projectiles and standing medium kicks that go halfway across the screen. Who designed this? And forces you to approach them in order to even up the life lead can be pretty fucking frustrating. There's nothing more fun than being sent full screen because the opponent bursted, and now you have to deal with flying swords that know exactly where you are. I love getting hit with a cruise missile that sends me back to full screen, and then having to press forward, down, back for the next 30 seconds to even get a single chance of hitting you, by which time you have very much put me into chip range. Oh, how fun! Every archetype is meant to make you feel something. Grapplers are obviously meant to make you feel scared, with their big silhouettes, damaging attacks, and threatening animations. Rushdown characters are made to make you feel overwhelmed, with their crazy movements suffocating you and forcing you to deal with the insane amount of options that they have at their disposal. Shoutouts are designed to make you feel anything. So what are zoners designed to make you feel? Well, zoners are literally designed to make you feel frustrated. If a zoner gets a chance, they're able to take some of the longest turns in fighting games by forcing their opponents to constantly deal with something, and if you want to win, you are forced to play the game at their tempo instead of your own. Control is a pretty good word that comes to mind. Once a zoner gets themselves into an optimal position, they have complete control over everything that is happening in the match, and it's on you, the aggressor, to somehow find a way to blindside them and make your way in. The zoner is able to sit back, relax, and cover their options, and unless you manage to find something that they don't react to or simply aren't paying attention to, you won't get to play. Playing against zoners can can be a test of patience more than anything else, and that can drive people up the wall. The fact that if you lose, you now don't get to play the game for ages because you're being held down at the other end of the screen, forcing the game to go to a fucking crawl pace, and even having to think about the timer once in your miserable life, and you can kind of see why players begin to lose their shit. That is why you hate fighting zoners. Because you're supposed to hate them by design. Granted, if you get in on a zoner, the tables do turn very quickly in your favor. With their generally poor defensive options and lackluster health bars, getting 1 or 2 good reads on a zoner means that you can absolutely decimate them, and they're the ones who can't do anything. And that's the thing with most of these archetypes, really. Yeah, they have their strengths that can feel like bullshit once they're doing their game plan against you. Let me fucking move, Morrigan, please! But if you manage to find a way to get around those strengths, you'll find success in beating them. If a grappler never manages to get in on you, they don't get to play. If a zoner never manages to keep you out, they don't get to play. If you so much as breathe on a rushdown character, they just fucking disappear. Every archetype has something that they're weak to, and it's up to you, the player, to figure out what it is and abuse that weakness. So why do you hate fighting any of these archetypes? It's because you're bad. Get good, scrub. Find me on Street Fighter 6. Thanks again to War Thunder for the sponsor. Make sure to sign up with the link in the description to get all the cool stuff and have a good time. I'm streaming right now. Meet me on the fucking real honest footsies game. As always, a very special thanks to 64 MHz Almost Nap Time, Bantushitos, Brudikai, Cervantes de Leon, Daniel Wiederick, Dragonprox, Games.png, I Am Naruto, Jacko Reeves, Lady Dantilon, Melodically Me, Monact Enhoa, Ray W, Super, Falcon, Tom Tanks, and Zandatsu for being tier 2 patron supporters.